Okay, everybody, welcome to Raising Honeybees with Daniel. You always wanted to get a package of bees, and you always wanted to put them into a hive, haven't you? Well, we're going to show you how to do it today. The old cowboy got a lot of talent, so we're going to show you all about it. We've got various tools here. Right here is our package of bees. About 10,000 bees in here as a 3-pound package. 2-pound package got about 7,000 bees. And this is the basic hive. What you see here, this is a strip for mites. We don't want the bees to get any mites. You simply just take your mite strip and put it right down there. The basic construction, this is the hive body, and these are the hive body frames. These are deep. And we're going to install these bees right here. Now in this package of bees, we have a can of sugar water. Then we have the queen right here. Now she's in a cage. And the reason you don't want this queen in there with the other bees is because that queen is probably not from this bunch of bees. This queen was raised somewhere else and inserted in here. So you want time to acclimate these bees to this queen. So she's in a cage. And what we're going to do is, in that little cage, there's a piece of cork. We're going to take that cork out, and then we're going to put a marshmallow in there. We're going to put a mellow in there, and then they're going to eat. The bee's going to eat through there, and then they're going to meet the queen and release her from her cage. This here is some sugar water, and what this sugar water does is it calms the bees down. So we're going to spray them a little bit. You can soak them. It's all right. And they're saying, hey, we're having a sugar water shower. Tastes pretty good, tastes pretty good. It calms them down, so we'll do that right there. Now let's go ahead and we're gonna take our hive tool. And just a quick note on bees, one bee lives only, the average bee lives 6 weeks, but the queen lives between 3 and 5 years. She's a super bee. But I'll tell you what, a bee in 6 weeks will only make 1/12 of a teaspoon of honey, not very much. Shake off the attendant bees. There's always attendant bees with her. And we look in there. Can you see that? That's the queen running around in there. She would like to be out right now, but she can't. Now here's your cork right here. So I'm going to replace that cork with a mallow. Alright, so here we go. Have the mallow in hand. I use a nail to take it out. So here we go. Stick a nail in there. Begin to pry out a little bit. The average hive, when this hive is going, it's going to have about 60,000 bees. Now shove that mellow right in there. As you can see. So now we're going to put the queen in the hive body right here. So we're going to take her and put her, I usually let them face down. I'll flip this over here, put the queen right here, scoop my frames together, tighten it up a bit. Now that's all tight right there. So now get ready for some fun, people, because you've heard of release the kraken. Well, we're going to release about 10,000 krakens here in just a second for your enjoyment. Now I'm going to take some frames out, and the reason why, when I dump these bees in here, I want them to be able to go down inside the hive. I don't want to smash them by putting a lid on them. Sometimes they'll just melt right down in there. Sometimes they'll clump up, and you got to work them to push them down. But it's a lot of fun. Okay, you ready? Now we're going to take the sugar water out, and then we're going to do the famous Danielot bee dump right here. We're going to take a dump right here of bees. And for your enjoyment, here we go. It's Bee Armageddon. What do you think, people? Is there enough bees right there? Looking good. A lot of good bees in there. I'll put this in front of the hive and they'll eventually find their way in here. So we like that. Well, let's just move them on over here. Move a clump of bees in there real good. Start putting our frames back in there. In a couple days, we'll come out and make sure that they've ate the marshmallow out of the queen cage. Now, we're going to take our, this is called the inner cover. It goes right on top. Put it down very gently. Don't want to mush any bees. And then we put our lid on. And now, we have a package of bees installed. Come around here. You see in the front, we've already got sugar water, 50% water and 50% sugar. By the way, Susan and I just use organic. And then over here, this here is called an entrance reducer. You see we have a little hole here. The reason we don't have that wide open, because we want these bees to stay in there for a while. And we don't want robber bees coming in there. It's easier for this new hive to protect itself with that little hole than if you just put them in there with a big gap. So in a couple days, we'll make this hole a little bigger, and then finally, when we get a honey flow, we'll take it out. So when a bee, basically the whole hive is female bees. All the worker bees are female, and the queen is female. Now when the queen gets to laying, she'll lay between 1,500 and 2,000, maybe 2,500 eggs a day. She needs room to do that in this hive. Now, eventually when this hive is going, there might be 100 or so drone bees. Now the drone bees are the male bees. Now they only do one thing, okay? They're looking to bang a queen. So they hang out at the entrance and they're looking for some smack. They're looking for a queen flying around, and they're gonna fly right out. And they're going, you heard the Beatles, why don't we do it in the road? Well, they're saying, why don't we do it in the sky? So you got a bunch of drone males going up in the sky looking for a female, looking to get some action. Now once they mate with the queen, they'll go back in the hive and they'll sponge off the hive. So they don't work, they don't help nothing, they sponge off the hive. But justice does have its due. The girls fight back, because in the wintertime, all the girls kick all the drone guys out. Say, out you go, we're not gonna feed you anymore, you bunch of losers. So then in the springtime, the queen will make some more bees. But now the average bee could travel about 15 miles per hour. The bee, it flaps its wings 200 times per second. That's why you got that buzzing sound. And they'll fly up to a 5-mile radius to get nectar from flowers. Now, on the average bee trip, a bee will visit between 50 and 100 flowers on every single trip. Remember, in the life of a bee for 6 weeks, they can only make 1/12 of 1 teaspoon of honey. That's all they make. So you got to have tens of thousands of bees out there, going out there and getting you some damn honey, okay? Because that's their job. Look, you're providing room and board, you're giving them some food, you're taking care of them, you're making sure they're medicated. Some of them may need to have some meds anyway. Well, by the way, bees have facial recognition. Just like they come out, when they come out of the hive, they'll turn around and they'll look and center themselves, and then so where they are, so they triangulate their various things. So once they see a beekeeper, they're already triangulating my face, so they'll know me. Hopefully they'll think I'm a good guy, because I'm trying to help them out, man. But they'll travel about 5 miles or so, and then they'll bring but they don't really bring back honey. They bring back nectar, and then the nectar they put into a cell, and somehow or another it has to dry out to exactly 18.3% moisture. If it's above that, they won't seal it up because it's not honey. So they wait. As soon as it hits, who knows how they know? I don't know how they know they're a bee. You got to ask the person upstairs who created them, and boy, what a master he is at designing things. Because when they find out what the percentage of moisture is, then they seal it up, and it becomes honey in the cell. It actually becomes honey at 18.3. Above that, it's just watery nectar. So they'll fill those hives, and they'll also go get pollen from flowers. They'll get propolis. Propolis is what they seal up the hive with. They get that from like pine. You've seen the drippings out of a pine tree. They'll get that and they'll chew it up and they'll build. This is like a little glue, and they'll seal that hive up. So they make propolis, they make pollen, they make wax, and they make honey. It's the world's perfect insect. Why wouldn't you want to have bees. As you can see, we have a whole row of beehives right here. These were already installed 2 weeks ago. They're all doing very nicely. We added these 3 today. And looks like the bees they're all flying around. They're all trying to figure out, hey, what's going on? They got a new home. A lot of them are probably happy to be flying around right now. But they're very, you've heard the hive mentality. These bees, they all know which hives is theirs already. They already know. They're just flying around, they're getting oriented. But there's another little amazing thing that the bee does. When the bee goes out and say finds a good patch of flowers, a lot of nectar, she'll fly back in here, she'll crawl up on a frame, and then she'll do a little dance. She'll be going like this. Oh yeah, I'm doing this, okay? I'm doing the bee. I'm doing the, it's not gay, I'm just saying. Just kidding, there ain't no gay bees either. But anyway, so they're flying around. They'll do a little dance. Now, it's called the wangle dance. What's happening is, the other bees are watching this, okay? They're not just enjoying it like a pole dance or something. The bee is giving them directions, and she's saying what time it is, what direction it is, and where the sun's located, and where the flower is. All that in that little bee dance. And then those bees don't follow that bee. They've already received the directions. So amazing species that's on our planet. We got a lot of honey last year, and just love raising bees. There's nothing to it. It's almost kind of like farming. You put a seed in the ground, and then you just wait for it to bring forth the harvest. The bees do require a little bit of maintenance, but while you're waiting, usually you can only get honey from them once a year. You don't want to take all the honey itself. You want to leave about 60 pounds, at least 60 pounds for your bees to survive through the winter. And you got to treat them like we've treated them for mites. Mites is a big destroyer of hives. But what happens is that little mite strip, they walk on it because they're always walking around. That's what they do. And then they take it and then they just kind of spread it out. And if there's a little mite, the mite goes and it dies off. And then the bees will just drag it on out and just kick it out in the dirt somewhere, which is where it ought to be. But so that's basically how you install a package of bees. You can get bee packages. You can order them online. Get them from a local bee supplier. These bees come from California, and it's an amazing thing that the major beekeeper here in Indiana puts truckloads of these hives and trucks them out to a flatbed of them, takes them out to California where they pollinate the almond groves and blueberries and everything else, because 80% of everything that's pollinated is pollinated by the bees. So they truck them out there, they set them out in the fields, and the bees pollinate all the fields, and then they'll come back out, the major beekeeper, they'll come back out, put all the hives back on the truck, drive them to a bee separator where they actually funnel them into a weigh machine. They funnel these bees down, and so they know there's 3 pounds of bees in here. Meanwhile, they got another department that's creating queens. You can create them. Now, if a queen dies, there's 2 things going to happen. The bees themselves are going to create another one by a larva that's already in there, by feeding what makes a regular bee into a super bee, which is a queen, is they feed it royal jelly. That's another part. That's another thing they make is royal jelly. Royal jelly is a superfood. You can actually find that in health food stores. A lot of royal jelly actually comes from China because it's so small amount. Only Ching Mang Pao and his 50 million of his other unemployed friends will take one little single drop of a piece of royal jelly and put it with some more until they finally got a little thimbleful. So the Americans won't do that. So we don't have a lot of American royal jelly. There might be some producers out there. I haven't really researched that. But that'll create a queen for them, or you can go buy another queen if you're queen, because if you don't have a queen in this hive, she dies. And now that's the fallacy. There's a hive out there. They say, hey, for $700 you get a hive, and all you gotta do is turn a valve, and honey comes pouring out of there. Well, that's for somebody who doesn't want to manage their bees. That's somebody who just wants to rip them off of the honey. But you have to make sure that queen is laying. If she's not laying, the hive will die. So you can have a $600 turn a valve and get honey out, but if your hive is dead, it's not going to do much good. So most of the dedicated beekeepers are shying away from that. It might be good for some starter people. Anything to get you guys out there interested in bees, I would be for. Bees are such an integral part of society. and what they do and what they produce. It's fascinating. The bees, actually, each hive will have a different personality, and that personality comes from the queen. So if you got a mean, nasty queen, you're going to have 60,000 other mean strangers, man, looking to chomp on you. Another thing, bees also good for arthritis. There's called arthritis therapy that you can get. They say when the bee stings you, it triggers reaction in your body, and it helps that. So that is installing a bee package. Appreciate you watching. Cows Make Cowboy. Signing out. Be good.
These are all sealed up, but these are going crazy. Is there a hole up there or something?